Watch this.
Here today, gone tomorrow has been an unfortunate small business trend over the past pandemic years, but usually those who work there are aware of it before it happens. Usually. That's not what happened with this North End restaurant, and apparently it's not the first time. The National Day of Prayer is a call for Americans to pray for God's guidance. But which God? All gods? What about no gods? Sure? Millions of dollars are making their way to Idaho's nonprofits this week thanks to Idaho Gives. But it's not just adults who are giving. One 9-year-old collected some coin with her classmates, and a lot of it. It is the biggest week of giving of the year here in Idaho. During the annual Idaho Gives campaign, thousands and thousands of Idahoans donate millions of dollars collectively to more than 600 different organizations. It's a yearly reminder that we live in a very generous community. Some nonprofits bring in some major donations over these last 4 days. The Peregrine Fund, for example, has brought in more than $100,000. But of course, every penny counts, no matter how big or small the organization may be. A Valley 9-year-old found that out through her own campaign to help autistic and abused children. She and her classmates, they did it one penny at a time.
It's a meaningful day for 9-year-old Aurora Armin. She finally gets to finish a major project.
Giving money to Faces of Hope.
Faces of Hope in Boise helps and provides resources for people dealing with things like domestic violence, sexual assault, and child abuse. Aurora is passionate about helping others, so she started a campaign at school.
I made a penny drive that whoever raised the most money gets a pizza party.
The prize of pizza helped produce pounds of pennies from students at Crimson Point Elementary in Kuna.
They were really kind. They said that they'd bring it in because it's helpful to autistic and child abuse awareness.
Those are topics close to Aurora and her supportive family.
My brother is autistic, and he got abused in the hands of a teacher.
Ada County Prosecutor Jan Bennett met Aurora at Faces to help accept a donation of well over $1,500.
She's making a difference in the community and really proud of that.
Bennett notes how meaningful it is for a 9-year-old to take on a serious topic for a charity drive.
Very important, serious issues, and I think it's great because it raises awareness, and someone who's a young girl out there trying to make a difference already, it's exciting to know what the future holds for us with someone like that who is engaged and interested and caring about her community.
Aurora's family is so proud of her hard work. Just ask her mom, Kate.
With April being Autism Awareness Month and Child Abuse Awareness Month, April's a big deal in our house. My son is well aware of everything, that he's aware of his diagnosis, he's aware of what happened and that it wasn't right. And so to be able to, his little sister speak up for him, and that's great.
It is so heartwarming to see people get involved and be engaged in preventing child abuse, which is so important because it takes a community to really prevent child abuse, and that's our goal.
Aurora is a humble elementary schooler who also happens to be Miss Gem State Elementary. She says delivering the check brings a unique excitement.
It's like having a whole entire another birthday.
So it feels like a big special day today.
Pennies, pizza, and projects aside, Aurora says her work comes down to a simple message.
My favorite part of this whole project is helping people who are autistic and the people who are getting abused.
I'm so proud of her.
Stop abusing people, and you don't have to be rude to people who are autistic.
No, you do not. Miss Gem State Elementary, I need to know more about that. But I know they're still kind of tallying all the pennies because you got to count them one at a time, Joe. So we don't have a total number. But I do want to know, who won the pizza party?
Well, believe it or not, Aurora's brother, who is in the 5th grade, his class actually really percolated, Brian, and they actually raised over $500 just their 5th grade alone. So they have earned the pizza party over at the Crimson Elementary School there in Kuna. And it's really interesting, Brian. It's one of these things where driving home from the story, I realized that we don't give kids credit for how smart they are. Just chatting with this 9-year-old Aurora, you realize how kids really grasp things, and then you also realize how simply they can put things into words. you know, you could say, you know, be kind to people who are autistic, and it sounds a very overly simplified thing, but for some people, that's what they need to hear. So when you have a 9-year-old telling us basic advice, it's a reminder. These kids are pretty smart, and we should listen to them, especially in times like this. She got this whole thing going on her own. We know that they've raised at least $1,600. Her family and the community are so proud of her. It'll be interesting to see what Aurora does next.
Intelligence and emotional intelligence on top of that. That's a big part of that. Thank you very much, Joe. So with that, a reminder that there's still time to give to your favorite Idaho nonprofit. Already, you have helped raise more than $2.5 million. We're working our way toward $3 million for over 600 Idaho nonprofits in these last 3 days. Today is the last day, but as of right now, there are still 26 registered organizations that haven't received one donation, so you can change that. That includes organizations like the Fruitland Public Schools Education Foundation Project Fund, which supports school projects in the district, the Idaho Governor's Cup Scholarship Fund, which offers college scholarships for Idaho students going to Idaho universities. They could use some help when it comes to raising some money. And like we said, hundreds of others out there that would love your donations before the window closes tonight at 11:59, just before midnight. And we have a link to all of those organizations, plus how you can donate. It'll be in this story at ktvb.com. All right, in the early days of the pandemic, at the height of keeping our distance, many businesses were forced to shut their doors. And not just temporarily. Some called it quits because of a lack of customers, others from a lack of staff. And this seemed to lean heavily into the restaurant industry. Here we are at the seemingly tail end of the pandemic, and one popular North End joint just shut their doors like suddenly, leaving many employees jobless. Why? Here's Katya Stepovic.
Just 4 short days ago,
it was a vibrant restaurant.
The Hyde House on 13th Street in the North End welcomed foodies and music lovers alike.
We felt that passing along the Hyde House to another family would be the best for the community.
But that family brought operations to a screeching halt on April 1st, leaving dozens of employees jobless.
They put a sign out that they were short on staff, closed Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. When I opened the door, I said, "Hi, what's going on?" And she said, "Hi, we're done. We're closing. We have closed."
Property owner Jill Monteith opened the Hyde House with her family in 2015 and found tenants to continue operation in 2021.
We negotiated a deal with them to purchase the business and then to be my tenant in the home on a 3-year lease. As we work so hard to bring the community a really fun, quaint restaurant.
And the fun, quaint restaurant was enjoyed by many customers, but not all employees. Were they ever late on rent?
You know, they were throughout the winter a few times.
Sky McGeehee is one of many young employees who worked at the Hyde House.
I had a great time working there. Like, I loved my coworkers. My manager was awesome.
But something big was missing.
And our accounts were negative hundreds of dollars. They showed absolutely no accountability.
According to former employees, Cynthia Sawyer wasn't always paying them.
So we got our check for the week, and we put our resignation letters on the desk, and then we took it to their bank, our checks, so that we could cash them instead of getting, you know, our account's negative if we deposited bad checks. And the bank told us that there wasn't any money in the account, so they couldn't even cash the checks.
I couldn't pay rent. I couldn't make my car payments. I couldn't pay my cell phone. I couldn't pay my insurance. My account right now is overdrawn $989 because of the faulty checks.
Diane Lawrence was a chef at the restaurant and said sometimes Cynthia would pay him in cash, and when it was a check, it was half the amount of what he should have been paid.
It was supposed to be $18.50 is what the check was supposed to be. She only wrote it for $6.10.
The Department of Labor told KTVB that 6 wage claims have been filed against the Hyde House. All are in the fact-finding stage. According to comments on a job posting website, Indeed, about her prior business called Living Resources, former employees say, quote, the owner lied about benefits, took benefit fees from checks, and no one was told. Another former employee saying payroll was often missed and the staff lacked integrity and leadership skills.
Have you ever worked for any business like this?
No, God, no. Never. This is definitely a first for me.
According to employees, Cynthia has been unreachable since closing shop. While her whereabouts are still unknown, one thing that Jill says is for certain.
We're going to be really careful on who we rent it to next, that it's going to be a viable, amazing part of the community.
And that is the hope. Of course, I have done my research. I texted, called, messaged on social media Cynthia, I have not heard back. All of Hyde House's social media pages have also been taken down, and no phone number is listed online anywhere.
So she just kind of vanished, right? And this is not something new, as you said in the story. This has happened before.
It has happened before, and we've heard of several, whispers about other businesses, but Boise Bistro, actually just down the street from us, they did a 6-month lease with her to rent out their coffee shop inside the market. Apparently, the owner tells me it was a bad from the get-go, and she was in and out in 2 months. She was also late on payments, and many of her checks bounced. Eventually, she did pay them in cash, and they let her off of that 6-month lease. So.
And the only recourse for these employees who are left, well, without funds, is just to file a claim?
To file a claim and hope for the best. But as we know, everything for servers is about tips, and they're going to be reimbursed their wage, not necessarily their tips.
Wow, unfortunate situation all around. All right, thank you very much, Katya. Today is the National Day of Prayer, which first came to be in 1952 with a joint resolution by Congress and a signature by President Harry S. Truman. It was codified in 1988 by President Ronald Reagan, permanently setting aside the first Thursday of May as the National Day of Prayer. But there were broad calls for prayer across this country even before it was a country. The Second Continental Congress asked the colonies to pray for wisdom in forming a nation back in 1775. A year later, Congress set aside May 17th, 1776, as a day of humiliation, fasting, and prayer throughout the colonies. That was reiterated by President Lincoln in 1863. And according to the National Day of Prayer website, this day enables us to recall and to teach the way in which our founding fathers sought the wisdom of God when faced with critical decisions. But what if you don't believe in God? Well, then I guess this day isn't really for you. But what if you're religious, but your religion doesn't exactly involve a God, which is what we found today at the Idaho State House.
In the Lord, dear friends.
While the sound of supplication seemed
in the Lord always.
Sparse on the steps of the state capitol on this National Day of Prayer,
how's everyone doing today?
It was certainly sufficient on the inside.
Ready to hail some Satan?
Where the second floor rotunda
We thank you, Lord. We worship you, Lord.
Was a
Hail Lilith! Hail Satan!
round robin of religion.
And I give you glory, Father God. I normally host a Bible study at my home on 10, and we decided that it would be a good idea, since the National Day of Prayer, to just come down and pray around the Capitol in the rotunda. We had no idea what we were walking into.
Take care never.
What they walked into
To fit one's own beliefs.
was the Satanic Temple, Idaho.
Hail Satan.
Hail Satan.
We are a non-theistic, non-supernatural religion.
That which will not bend must break!
Participating in prayer
in the name of Lucifer,
in their own way.
Anoint you in the ashes of the false Messiah's word.
What'd you think?
It was disturbing to me because it was in a public building, but then at the same time, the Christians were here too.
The Lord is with thee.
A face-off of freedoms
This is the fruit Jesus!
I'm here to protect our capital from evil. There's a lot of demons around.
Let us stand now!
Of almost biblical proportions.
You got some nice background music going?
Almost.
We don't believe in a literal Satan. It's just the metaphor of Satan. It's sort of like a comic book character that we really like. You know what I mean? Like, think of Paradise Lost, where Satan is the hero against a tyrannical god. Just as they have their interpretation of the Bible in many different ways, we have our different interpretation of a major character.
Like when people hear Satanists, they think sacrifices, they think blood and gore, they think real evil stuff.
Yeah, so while we definitely embrace darker imagery, and I mean, certainly some of us are fans of horror and gore, some of us aren't. Like, I'm wearing, lavender. I like to, jazz it up a little bit, be colorful. We definitely are not about sacrificing. In fact, a lot of our membership is vegan, because that's how much they believe in not harming living creatures.
It's a religion, right?
It's a religion. These are our deeply held religious beliefs. Compassion, wisdom, and justice. That's why we're here, to stand up for what we believe. Satanists, we don't pray to a higher power. However, our interpretation of prayer is that we're kind of symbolically and verbally expressing our hopes and desires to the people of Idaho. That freedom of religion applies in Idaho.
They do have their right to be here, so I do respect that, but I'm not going to allow demons to be around.
People genuinely believe that we kill babies, that we sacrifice humans, that we do horrible things, and in fact, these people are some of the most compassionate and empathetic people I've ever met in my life. They're my family.
What does the National Day of Prayer mean to you?
That we just stop as a nation and pray for what's going on in the nation, pray for our leaders, pray for our the decisions that are being made, not to protest, but to just say, God, what's going on and how do we cooperate with you in it?
But no matter the denomination, right?
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. But we don't have to agree.
No.
And that's the beauty of this place and of this nation.
The Satanic Temple, Idaho, consists of about 30 members, and they reserved the second floor rotunda till 2 today to make sure they weren't run off. They even hired their own security just to make sure they weren't harassed. And to be fair, what was happening on the State House steps while we were there earlier today, that wasn't the main National Day of Prayer event. It was a marathon reading of the Bible that was going on. The main event begins, in about 45 minutes at 6 o'clock tonight, we're told, with a group prayer and presentation on the Capitol steps put on by Capital Christian Church. All right, quick reminder, we're just about a week and a half out from the primary elections. That happens on May 17th. But if you are planning to vote by absentee, tomorrow is the last day to request your ballot. You can do that by going to the website listed at the bottom of your screen. Well, not yet. It will be up there soon. Well, I'll just tell you. It's voteidaho.gov. You have until 5 o'clock tomorrow to get that request in. Or if you want to vote now, most counties are already offering early voting. And that's going to run through next Friday, a week from tomorrow. You can check with your county clerk and find those times and locations. And that actually brings us to an email we got from Allison this morning. She says, in chatting with friends and acquaintances, I was surprised to find many people think they can't vote in the upcoming primary. A friend who is unaffiliated thought she couldn't vote. Although you've been talking about this many times, please reiterate with urgency that all Idaho residents can vote in the upcoming primary. All registered voters of age, that is. Yes, this election is open to all registered voters. Republicans, Democrats, Libertarians, members of the Constitution Party, even unaffiliated. Whatever you consider yourself to be on the political scale, well, it doesn't matter. You can vote on May 17th. But all those designations will determine what ballot you get. Remember, the Republicans are the only party with a closed primary. You have to be registered as a Republican to get the GOP primary ballot. If you're registered as any other party, you will be asked at the polls if you want the Democratic or the unaffiliated ballot. And you can register to vote now or on Election Day. But the election, as a reminder, open to everyone, so there's no reason to not get out and vote. A sure sign that summer is almost here, not those temperatures, of course. Boise firefighters out and about around the Boise River and the Greenbelt. Today, they started the process of identifying and clearing debris left over from the winter. Usually, high river flows will kind of knock some things in the river they have to clean out. Not so much this year. I wonder how long that's going to take. Tree limbs, stuff that got, that fell off, got stuck, whatever. Anything that can create a hazard to those who would float the river or use the Greenbelt. They're going to be out there for the next few weeks, so keep an eye out for those fire crews, some of whom will be on motorcycles. And while the Greenbelt is open year-round, Boise River not quite ready to float just yet, not only because there are still some of those limbs and debris in there, but the water still a little too high, and it's, of course, freezing cold. So unless you want that, I guess, you could take a dip anytime. But floating season typically starts right around the 1st of summer, June 21st, which is about 6 more weeks from now until we can break out those rafts and then maybe hit the river for a relaxing day of floating. All right, just a reminder before we get to your comments sent in during today's show, we are available on all of these platforms. Texting isn't the only way to join the 208 conversation. You can find us on Facebook, on Instagram, of course on Twitter, and then you can also send us an email, the208@ktvb.com. You can find us there, so use those and get in touch with the 208, and maybe you can give us some good story ideas as well. All right, final minute of the show here as we get to your comments. This one sent in from Tracy and Cuna. Reading between the lines here, as far as the restaurant employees getting paid, good luck. I think the owners probably went to the Donald Trump School of Business because he tends to close a lot of businesses. I gotcha. I've discovered a good finger exercise, says Steve. Continually mute annoying political commercials. Your finger's probably like Popeye right about now. Are you serious? National Day of Prayer and you give Satan his day on your segment? Pathetic, says Tim. Religious freedom, right? We're all guaranteed the right to... Okay. A face-off of freedoms. Good description of the state of our country, such as it is, says Kathy from Star. Unfortunately, that is a fact. We kind of go at it with strong sides on both sides, or strong wills on both sides, I should say, depending on which freedom you think out-trumps the other one. I guess it doesn't really matter. They're all freedoms, right? Brian, it must be your majority of viewers down there at the rotunda at the Capitol. All we needed from you in your interviewing with Hail was Hail Satan? You're not going to get that from me. I'm sorry. But Sean, thanks for watching. I didn't see you down there, but it's cool. We'll see you back here tomorrow, I hope. Have a nice night.